What's the difference between an archy and an ocracy?
Which rulers were the bread people?
And are we all pronouncing Caesar wrong?
We'll lead you through the etymology of kings and queens, monarchies, and kakistocracies on this most illustrious and government-centric episode of Words Unravelled. Stick with us, it rules.
Welcome to another Words Unravelled. I'm Rob Watts from the YouTube channel Rob Words.
And I'm Jess, author of the etymology book, Useless Etymology. And today we're doing Government Without the Politics, the crowning achievement in all things global. So,
yeah, the etymology of rulers and the ruling classes we're talking about here. The most powerful people, how did they get their titles and what do they literally mean?
And we will also talk about the ocracies and archies of the world and the systems that they rule.
Yeah, let's get stuck into it. I mean, where do we start?
Oh, well, I think we should start with king and queen, which I think are the most emblematic symbols of power, at least in the English language.
Yeah, sure. In fact, they're sort of the defaults, particularly king. If we don't know the actual title of a supreme leader of somewhere, we tend to call them the king. So king, where does that come from?
It's an old English word. It's been around for a while, but it wasn't spelled the way it was originally. It was cooning or cuning originally, a word for any ruler or sovereign. So we come by that generalization pretty honestly.
Yeah, but what's interesting about it is that it is related to the word kin, because originally these kings were, yeah, well, I mean, obviously they're familiarly important because of their dynasties, but really it's not like that. It's more like a representation of a kinship.
Yes, indeed. Did you know, by the way, this is pertinent to king because kingdom tends to be the general term for the thing that person rules. Did you know the dom on the end of that word is not related to the word dominion or dominate? It's more closely related to the word doom.
Oh, no, I mean, I would never have guessed that.
So doom in Old English meant a law or a statute or a decree or administration of justice. Like your doom is the judgment made upon you.
A judge was called a doomsman.
Aha, exactly. But it kind of reads, a kingdom almost reads as if it is the dominion of a king, which is not the case. It is the doom of a king, which I feel like is very poetic, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like you say, so as word you could trace back an awful long way and is kind of common to the Germanic languages. It's very Germanic.
It has cognates across everything.
Indeed. König. I mean, I could just list them all. What's the point? Here's an interesting thing. The word queen, what it originally meant, I think
wife,
is interesting.
Right?
Yes, it meant wife. Queen, C-W-E-N or C-W-E-N-E in Old English was a word for a wife, but it was a poetic word for a wife. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm just going home to me queen." You know, it would be used in poetry. Yeah, but this is where we should also mention that wife, of course, in Old English didn't mean the person you were married to necessarily. That's the female person you were married to. It meant a woman.
Woman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could have a wiefman, which was
a woman.
Originally
became the word woman.
Yeah, indeed.
Queen is also, it comes from the same Proto-Indo-European root as the Greek gyne, which we use in like gynecology and things like that.
That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So yeah, just meaning woman. Yeah. And you can still call your wife your queen if you like. Sometimes they might insist on it.
I can understand that. So how did we get from woman to ruler, female ruler?
Simply because the first queens are the wives of the kings. And then eventually you have women who have the power themselves. But really the route to being a queen is to marry a king.
It is interesting, though, that other languages, well, more logically, simply like feminize the word for king, like Regina and Rex, for example.
Or even in Germanic languages, Königin is the word for queen, which is just the feminine version of the word König, which means king in German.
So England has had some interestingly named kings, correct?
Yes, it has, particularly the Anglo-Saxons. I mean, the most famous, interestingly named king, of course, is William the Conqueror, right? When I say interestingly named, we're talking about monarchs with monikers, really.
Right.
Yeah, William the Conqueror, William the Bastard, as he was known, before he was conquering things, I suppose.
Both accurate and used emphatically.
Yeah, exactly. But there have been others. There was Ethelred the Unready that people might have heard of. And that one is worth a mention because it doesn't mean what it sounds like it means, but it also includes a pun. Unready here. It doesn't mean he was ill prepared. I mean, he did have, well, no, the history books say he had quite a calamitous rule. He's not liked as much as Alfred the Great. Now, there are people who will tell you that actually Ethelred the Unready was, made some pretty smart moves. But generally, he was quite ill-advised, it's considered. And that's what unready here means. It means ill-advised. It's from an Old English verb meaning to advise. And the reason that this is a pun, Jess, is that Ethelred can be interpreted as meaning well-advised.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
All
Feels
the time.
very topsy-turvy.
Yeah, exactly. So when you see Ethel at the start of an Old English king's name, it's a nice word. It means well, great, or something like that. And then the red at the end can be seen as the same as unready or unrad, as he would have been described in Old English. There was also Edward the Confessor. Guess why he was called that?
Presumably his connections to, I don't know, religion.
It is entirely that. Yeah, he was pious. And indeed, he was made a saint. And the theory is that he was so pious that he felt the need to confess fanatically and frequently. I mean, it's not necessarily why it is. That's one of the theories. It also sort of evokes an earlier meaning of the word confess, which was closer to avow or to declare, which I think we talked about before. How to confess something was originally more to declare it than to admit to it. So it perhaps means that. William Rufus. So that is the son of William the Conqueror. Rufus was...
I mean, red, right?
There you go. Exactly. He had a red bushy beard or red hair. Depends on the picture that you're looking at. They're not very reliable, the pictures. There was my favorite one is John Lackland. So King John was the youngest of Henry II's 5 legitimate sons. He also had 3 daughters and 2 illegitimate sons. He was a busy lad, and as such, John was bequeathed very little land, so he was called John Lackland.
Womp womp.
And the last one, Edward Longshanks. Edward I was so tall that they called him Edward Longshanks. Shanks being your lower legs.
Fair enough. I mean, that epithet is in Lord of the Rings too, so I'm here for that one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, legs, trousers. Ragnar Lothbrok, right? His Ragnar woolly trousers. It sounds like a surname. It's not. It's an epithet. Yeah.
You have reminded me these aren't exclusive to English rulers. Like I remember off the top of my head, I believe it was Alfonso the Slobberer from somewhere in Spain, because apparently he would foam at the mouth when he got upset. And then
oh God, please don't. Oh, it would really undermine my rise to power if people start calling me the Slobberer.
I mean, I get the sense that this was like a popular nickname, not an official one. But there was also like Bermudo the Gouty, and I believe that's from the same region.
What, gouty? As in you've got a lot of gout.
Yeah.
Vlad the Impaler, of course.
Of course.
Of Ragnar Lothbrok's children was called Ivor the Boneless.
How do you get that one?
Well, I think he was... I'm basing this mostly on the Viking series now, actually. He had a problem with his legs, I think was the point. He couldn't really walk.
Oh. That's a mean nickname.
It's not. Presumably he wasn't boneless. He might have been. I don't know. Interestingly, he ended up. Oh no, I'm being boring here. But he ended up in Derbyshire. Living,
lovely.
Near where I grew up. Not the same time though. There was no.
No
crossover.
That's good to know. Thank God you're not as old as I thought.
Ivor the Boneless. I think by now you would be boneless, wouldn't you, if you lived 1100 years.
Fleshless, certainly.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, let's talk about some more rulers.
Yeah. What about, we should do prince and princess since we've done king and queen, right?
Tell me about them.
Prince it means first, which actually I feel like kind of
Ah.
makes a little more literal sense than king and queen, given the like it means the first man, a chief leader. It's originally from Latin princeps, which also means the same thing, a ruler or a sovereign, and is related to the word prime.
There's a nice Anglo-Saxon word that was used before the Normans brought over the word prince, which was atheling. I don't know if you've heard this one.
Oh yes, yes I have.
Yeah, it's a nice word. It means, well, the athel at the start of them refers to a noble family, and so the suffix ing or ling is, a member of a noble family, but it usually referred to, yeah, a young lad.
There's also a nod to that in Lord of the Rings. The plant called kingsfoil is called athelas in one of the languages in the book. So
You've not got to mix up your athels and your ethels, like I was mentioning earlier, because they mean
right,
slightly
different
different
things.
things.
Mhm.
Even though, annoyingly, in Old English, they're spelt almost exactly the same, because you have this weird AE letter, right, called ash, that's a cross between an A and an E. And the thing that separates those two things is whether or not they're spelt with an A or an E. And sometimes both of them are spelt with this combination letter. Hooray.
Consistent.
It's quite an interesting subject, I think. The titles, the nobility titles that were brought over by the Normans, because they don't displace all of the existing titles. For example, you still have earls in England after the Normans turn up. What they would normally have done, a French invader would start calling the earls counts, which is well, it's quite unusual that England doesn't have counts at this point. And earl is, another really, really old Germanic word related to the jarls of the Vikings.
You know what's cool about Earl is that Old English had the alderman, basically, but it was spelled EAL. And then it also had Earl, which is Old Norse in origin. So one is more Anglo-Saxon and one is more Norse.
They're related words, aren't they? And alderman, the sort of local judicial position that it is now, is exactly the same word as ealdorman.
A cool thing since we're on the topic, count is both is and isn't related to the act of counting because it has the same suffix, but it doesn't have the same root verb, which is kind of cool. The count, as in the leader, the Latin root here is the assimilated prefix com to with or together, and the second part is ire to go. It was a Roman title for a provincial governor or attendant originally, but then to count is from conte. The root verb there is the same as compute.
Don't take your etymological knowledge from Sesame Street. The Count should not be counting anything just based upon his name.
He is perfect and he does not need to change.
A wonderful companion, at the very least.
Right.
Companion. Now here's a nice link. You're going to like this link. So we can move from Count, who is the companion,
Mhm.
companion meaning someone you eat bread with, over to the Lord, can't we?
More bread people.
More bread people. Yes.
Yes. So the Old English lord, the word for lord meant loaf guardian.
Yeah. Clavord. Loaf ward,
Loaf
you
ward.
could say. Yeah.
Yes.
And lady is just a further extension of that.
A bread kneader. The
Oh, is it?
uh-huh. Bread
Oh.
kneader, and then there was also a loaf eater who was someone who consumed bread rather than providing it. These were like two different people.
I think I could have worked out that the loaf eater was someone who consumed bread. Jess.
Thank you.
I could be the loaf eater, gladly. Bit of a
Gladly.
third wheel there.
But these were like two different titles apparently for a while.
Was it a type of noble as well then, a loaf eater?
Evidently, I've got the loaf maker and distributor and the loaf eater, two different people who worked in the house.
And then you've got the Scottish laird, which is a title that you can still find now, which is just a Scottish interpretation of the word lord. But there are interesting titles in Scotland as well, because we haven't talked about the Anglo-Saxon title of the Thane. But most people, when they think of a Thane, will perhaps think of Macbeth, who becomes Thane, well, who is a Thane and becomes Thane of Cawdor.
And this is one of those, am I wrong that this is one of those that starts out as a word meaning like follower or attendant and then turns into a leadership title?
Yeah, you're entirely right. Yeah, it starts off as an attendant, and I think the other one you're thinking of is knight, right? Which is the
That is one of them too. There are a ton
yeah,
of them. Like a lot of
yeah.
these words, they got promotions over time.
Yeah, a knight is originally a servant. It's a knecht still in German, which means a servant, but they become servants of the king, and therefore, yeah, it becomes a. And it's interesting that knights stick around as well. They don't get replaced by cavaliers necessarily. I mean, obviously, you can think of cavaliers in England, but as a deliberate import later, much later on.
It
Um,
doesn't get Frenchified or Latinized.
exactly. But the Normans bring over the barons as well. So that actually comes from a Latin word that just means a man.
So a baroness would be a lady man.
A man S. And dukes, we should mention dukes as well, because similar titles come up all over the place from the Latin dux, which, yeah, is a leader.
That would be related to words like conduct and educate and induce and produce.
Lots and lots of relatives in there.
So let's talk about a few from Latin, a few titles that we use in English that we've gotten from Latin. One of them being emperor and empress, which is from the Latin imperator or imperare, meaning to command. The root here is to prepare or to arrange. So someone who issues commands and prepares things.
And what's interesting about that is that the earliest sort of emperors to the Romans were not, and that title was not given to the person that was, the supreme head of the state. It was a military leader, so they
Right.
would be beneath whoever was ultimately in charge.
Yes. And from Julius Caesar onward, the Senate and people began treating imperator as a permanent honorific. And
Yeah,
speaking of which, Caesar.
yeah. Ah, do you think everyone knows that Caesars are all named after Julius Caesar?
They might not.
They
It's
might not. Caius Julius Caesar. Yeah,
uh,
that's his full name.
it is a cognomen, so the third
Cognomen.
element, yeah, of a
Yeah.
of a citizen's name, originally a family name that became hereditary.
And so from Julius Caesar onwards, so you get Augustus Caesar, and then from then on, they are Caesars. Do you know what I couldn't get to the bottom of? What Caesar meant? I mean, it would just be interesting to know.
Part of the confusion is that people have been writing about it for a long time, like speculating about the etymology of this word for a while. Like Pliny the Elder said it came from gray hair, or sorry, thick hair, not gray hair. Another one was about gray eyes, and then another one suggests that it's related to cut, which that kind of dovetails nicely, but probably is inaccurate. But with the notion of the cesarean section and everything.
Yeah, well, that would make both and Caesarean section. I mean, section comes also from Latin verb meaning to cut as well, doesn't it? Into pieces. I think, in fact, I'm sure of it. We're pronouncing Caesar incorrectly all the time.
Yes, probably, yeah.
It should be more like the German version of the word Kaiser, right?
Mhm.
That C at the start should be pronounced like a K, not a C, because that's how the Romans pronounced that letter.
The other title related here would be Czar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whether you spell it TSAR or CZAR.
It is a rendering of Caesar or Kaiser.
Yeah, and there are also Middle English renderings of the word Caesar as well, and they're spelt with a K in Middle English. They're spelt with a C in Old English, but again, in Old English, you pronounce the C as a K. So I'm just saying we've got to start calling him Caius Julius Caesar. So that's emperor, tick. Let's do some more of these sort of supreme leaders, perhaps. Pharaoh, let's go right back
Yeah,
to
good call.
Pharaoh. Interesting thing about Pharaoh is that it originally applied to the building that the Egyptian king lived in.
It means
Not.
great house.
It
Mhm.
means great house, exactly. And then it gets transferred to the guy, usually the guy that's living there.
That feels the same way as using the word White House as a stand-in for like the executive branch says.
Can you remember what the word was for that? Because it came up in our NIM episode.
I believe this is an example of it's either metonymy or synecdoche, and I want to say it's metonymy because I believe synecdoche is a part for a whole.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. Metonymy is a stand-in for another thing. They can be any kind of stand-in. So synecdoche is a form of metonymy.
Interesting.
So like saying you live under this roof, you mean you're referring to your house as a roof, or a suit is a business person.
Okay, but if you've got a little dispute and you think you want to consult the pharaoh, that could originally have meant you consult the palace, I suppose would be a good way of saying it. And you might even do, in fact, they do that now when they're talking about the king, they'll say consult Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace. I can't remember which his palace is these days. It's the same thing with the pharaoh, but now we use it for the guy himself.
Another Roman leader that we have today is a senator.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Tell us about senators then.
It means old man.
I would never have guessed that.
I mean, I promised that this would be government without the politics, but it is appropriate that that's a lot of the people in senator roles.
Old men are very wise, Jess.
That's the idea. It's an elder or an elder leader.
I've got a few more interesting ones from history, and some of them are still used. But outside of Europe, don't want to be too Eurocentric. But you've got the Shah, which was a Persian title that just did mean king. Now, sometimes people will group Shah with Tsar and Kaiser and Caesar, but it's not
much
related.
older, right?
Much older word indeed. From Persian. Then you've got caliphs, which were Sunni Muslim leaders. There aren't any at the moment, but actually I mentioned Sunni and Shia because basically the main reason that you do have these two branches of Islam is because they don't agree over who the successor to Muhammad is. And the word caliph means successor. So so they don't agree on who the first caliph was. And that's why you have these two branches of Islam ultimately.
Very nice.
I can whack out a few more from around there if you like. Sultan, which is most associated probably with the Ottoman Empire, and is just a word meaning a king or a ruler. You know what the feminine version of a sultan is, or the wife of a sultan is called?
I feel like I'm going to know this when you say it, but I'm blanking.
It's a sultana.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I thought I was questioning myself.
But the question is, why are dried grapes named after the sultan's wife?
I didn't know they were.
Okay. So this is a big deal. Maybe it might be a British thing, but you've got currants, sultanas, and raisins, right? Raisins are made from white grapes that still have their seeds in them.
Mm.
Sultanas are made from white grapes that don't have their seeds in them. And currants are made from red grapes. And currants are the smallest. Then you've got sultanas, the next biggest, and then raisins are the biggest.
I was woefully ill-informed about my raisins.
Oh, there you go. Now you know. Now we all know. But they are not named after the sultan's wife. They are named after the sultan himself, because the sultana there is not the feminine version of sultan. It's a possessive.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say. Oh,
you can imagine, like you put the name of something. You say the grape sultana, for example, which is actually what we're talking about. The story goes that the sultan, escaping a tiger, left his grape harvest, and it all dried out. When he came back, the dried out grapes were flipping delicious, and then Europeans started to call them that. I mean, it's more likely that Europeans started to call dried grapes sultanas because this specific grape they're made from is from Turkey and the Izmir region where there was a sultan.
He left because there was a tiger?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's like seeing a spider in your house and being like, oh, well, you can have it.
I don't think seeing a tiger is like seeing a spider.
I mean, true. I
know which one I'm more likely to run away, abandon my crop for.
That is true. I will pick up spiders. I will not pick up tigers or touch tigers without lots of permission from everyone who knows about tigers.
Yeah, indeed. Another title that's worth a mention is Raja.
Ah, excellent. What does that mean?
Well, it's an Indian title meaning a king. It does just mean that. But the interesting thing is it's from Sanskrit, and it is related to words like Latin rex, the Irish word re, by the way, which we haven't mentioned already, but you've got some good Irish titles like re and Taoiseach as well that are kind of unique to Irish. Anyway.
That would also connect it to like royal too,
yes,
as well.
It connects it to so many words. It connects it to rank, regulate, rail, regal, because it's believed that the Indo-European root, the Proto-Indo-European root, shared by a word all the way over in India in Sanskrit and a word all the way over in Ireland with meant to lead in a straight line.
To move like along the correct path, or to guide people along the correct path, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that idea of leadership actually, I suppose, comes a little bit later, but it means go in a straight line.
But it's also related towards like right and stuff because of that.
All of these words, and ruler, both versions of the word ruler.
Yes, indeed. Measurement and leadership.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for humoring me with all of those, Jess.
No, that was very fun. I love a root deep dive. Those are my favorites. Where in the world should we go next?
Well, okay, so I've got a few more that I wanted to look up because I realized that a huge gap in my knowledge is what leaders of, for example, the Inca were called. I mean, the problem there is that the leader of the Inca was called the Inca because Inca means emperor. Yeah, exactly. So the leader was called the Sapa Inca, which means the only Inca, as in the only emperor, which is kind of cool as well. I also looked up the name of the Aztec leader. I'm going to do my best with it, but it's Hueyi Tlatoani.
Oh, interesting.
It says that's the title, right? And the Hueyi means great. And then you would have the Tlatoani, who were also the stratum beneath the Hueyi Tlatoani, and that word means speaker. So,
neat.
Yeah, they called their leaders speakers, which is kind of neat.
I mean, we have those now, right? Very modern.
And then beneath the Tlatoani, you have the Siwakwatl.
That second part, that reminds me of something. It's the Quetzalcoatl, right? That's the name of a god.
Came up in our dinosaur episode because there's a dinosaur named after the god. So what does the name of the god mean?
I believe it's like Aztec snake or something like that. And it was a plumed serpent god. It had feathers.
Well, this noble title, Siwakwatl, means female serpent. So you're right to link those two words.
So
yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Sorry, I said he is a deity associated with like wind and wisdom and learning. I double checked that one.
Yeah, and actually Siwakwatl was also a deity, but then you have the title that is named for the deity.
Should we pivot to some modern titles? A minister is fun. Like we have our prime minister, which is kind of fun. It's like the highest ranking lesser one, right?
Yeah.
The word minister, regardless of whether you're talking about a religious minister or an administrative minister, which is also the same root, means to someone who serves or attends, and it's related towards like minus and minor, and it means a lesser one. So a servant, someone who serves someone else. So a public servant in the administrative sense. And so a prime minister is a little bit of just has a touch of oxymoronic energy.
But that's an accurate description in some ways, because the prime minister is essentially just the most senior politician.
I mean, they are a public servant. That is true.
Well, we don't elect a prime minister in Britain, for example, right? The prime minister is the prime minister because they are the leader of their party, not because they have been elected prime minister. That's not how it works. The point is they're just the most senior of the people that have been elected. I've got a vague memory that the first use of prime minister actually was pejorative. It wasn't meant to be flattering, but it's become the official title.
And of course, the first word prime there is related to like premier, which we have as like another form of political leader. Same root there is prime or primarius.
Can you tell me about president?
Sure.
Does it just mean someone who presides? Or...
Literally that.
Okay.
A president dates back to the 14th century, someone who presides over a meeting or in court. And then it was in the 1400s and the 1500s, it became used for like appointed governors, presidents of councils and provinces. Oxford and Cambridge had presidents. The first use in what is modern day America, the United States of America, is in 1608 in the Jamestown colony. John Smith was among those who were styled president of the council. And it was translated in 1774 to the officer who led the Continental Congress. And then when the U.S. Constitution was written, President of the United States was adopted as the title of the new republic's first chief executive.
I see. It seems like a word that should be an adjective rather than a noun. Do you understand what I mean? This person is president, as in they are presiding, therefore they are president. They are the president person.
But instead we are presidential. A little note here.
To try to be.
One of my favorite. Um,
The way you said right there.
Right. Not government without the politics. Anyway,
No politics.
but one word that I love that is pertinent to presidential elections in the United States, one of my favorite origins because it is so unhinged, is the word inauguration. Have we talked about this one before?
I don't know if we have.
You know the root of this word.
The org bit.
It's about birds. It is about birds. It is about psychic birds. So
No, it's not about psychic birds.
It is about the prediction of birds and the reading of birds in the sky. So an augur in Rome was a religious official who watched natural signs to determine what the gods thought of proposed actions and potential leaders, and it is thought to be related to the word avis or bird because the augur's role largely involved watching the behavior of birds for omens of divine. And you still see these like murmurations in particular are considered signs.
And you still say it doesn't augur well for you, right? It means that it's not looking good for you.
The Latin verb inaugurare meant to take omens from the flight of birds, but it also meant to consecrate or install someone in a role when the omens are favorable. But so that term is stuck around. So we still inaugurate presidents, not based on birds, but it's still the birds are still there. They're hiding.
I do remember once seeing when President Biden was taking office. You know, he's got this dog. What was his name? What was the name of his dog?
Major.
That was it. When Biden was inaugurated, they held an inauguration for his dog.
Inauguration.
I've never been able to get the word inauguration out of my head. It's just such a travesty of a pun.
Wait, is that what they actually called it?
No, I don't think they actually called it that. No, that was the headline. It was the headline that I saw.
Oh, good, because I just thought of, I did not know them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it doesn't work in my accent. Inauguration kind of that kind of works, but inauguration really doesn't. Because we don't say inauguration, although I think some people might think a British person would. We wouldn't say it like that.
That's fantastic. Another ruler that it dates back to more ancient times, but is still used today is chancellor, which means doorkeeper. Interestingly, this is another one that got a promotion. But in the late Roman Empire, the doorkeeper expanded into clerical and notary duties. I was trying to make that into an adjective and couldn't think of what the adjective was.
We've got a chancellor here. So the chancellor is part of a church?
In laws and courts in Rome, originally. Mm-hmm.
I see.
So like an usher or a secretary or something like that. And then the office grew in importance in England. There's a record from, if you're reading this in modern English, it looks like it says the Queen's chancellor in 1123, but it is the word chancellor.
Today, we refer to our finance minister as the chancellor of the exchequer, which is quite the phrase.
We should get into our ocracies and our archies and our ships.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Ocracies, ocrats as well. So someone who is participating in one of these ocracies. I mean, the one that we're perhaps most aware of is the democracy, which is the, rule by the people, by demos.
The root here is actually city. So it's funny that democracy is rule. It's ruled by the people of the city, the citizens, but originally ruled by the citizens of a location.
Democracy was one of Plato's 5 forms of government. You see, a handful of the ocracies we talk about do go right back to the Greeks. And then we've got a lot of the modern ones, but some of these original ones, I suppose, include Plato's 5 forms of government. And what he listed these 5 ways of running a country and said that each one would sort of devolve into the next, right? It would degenerate and you'd end up with the other one. So he said that aristocracy was the best system of government because
it means by the best.
Indeed, it does. It's funny how far the meaning of that feels like it has come. So aristocracy is the best, ruled by the best, so therefore it is the best, which makes sense. Plato then thought that it would degenerate into timocracy, which is not one that gets talked about very often. Timocracy is ruled by
honor or worth.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing. So he said it was ruled by people who were motivated by honor, right? That's a nice way of putting it. A less nice way of putting it is, they were ambition, really. But Aristotle, another very key figure in this whole thing, thought that interpreted it as meaning ruled by people with property. And actually, to me, that makes more sense, the idea that aristocracy would devolve into that.
That makes sense too, because if the root here means worth, it could be monetary worth, not like worth of character.
Exactly. But you're right. That's what links those two concepts, isn't it? The idea of worth. Anyway, when that goes wrong, you degenerate into oligarchy, according to Plato, which is ruled by the few. The start of that means few, the olig. There's a good word for using short words, which is oligosyllabic, which means, having few
Oh, I
syllables.
like that.
Yeah, but it's highly ironic because oligosyllabic is a mouthful.
Yeah, right. That's one of those heterological words, one that doesn't describe itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like monosyllabic is another one.
There we go. Exactly. Very similar. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. Oligosyllaby. It's basically the same thing. Oligarchy, by the way, according to Plato, descends into democracy. So it's generally quite far down the list. And that's the one where most of us are now. And what does that degenerate into? Tyranny. Which isn't an ocracy, but nevertheless. Rule by the tyrant being someone who seizes power without the legal rights to it.
That's quite a different arrangement of power dynamics than we would value today, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's often who's cited as saying about democracy being the least worst system of government. I bet Churchill gets cited. I can't remember who said it, but that is more along the lines of what we think these days. We certainly wouldn't say that aristocracy is the best possible.
Right. Yeah, I think the French Revolution probably did away with that notion.
Yeah, exactly. But a few more of these like older ocracies, like monocracy, which is the rule by a single person, by one person. Theocracy, ruled by God. I mean, there are still some of those around. It's not ruled directly by God. It's ruled
by the church.
Ruled by the church, by representatives of God. And plutocracy as well, ruled by the wealthy.
We had mentioned autocracy, which was someone who rules by his own authority, an autocrat, what that means there. And it was used in classical Greek and in Roman. And then Byzantine rulers sometimes styled themselves in that way to underline their independence from the Senate and the Pope.
Yeah, there are obviously a lot of crossover in these ocracies and ocrats as well.
Milton mentions, like, he dismisses monarchy as an autocracy.
We didn't talk about monarchy, actually.
Right. We were talking about ocracies, which, by the way, means strength, right?
Yeah,
it
indeed. Yeah. So that, and also that kratos that it comes from. You can have a kratocracy, which is power by means of power, which is basically ruled by strength or might.
And then archy means rule or leadership. Monarchy, which we've said is rule of one.
Is that right? So monarchy is also rule of one, yes. Now, I mentioned monocracy, which I guess means the same thing.
We did mention oligarchy already, too, which is rule of the few. Two different endings. One is, they're both Greek, but one implies a little more strength or might, and one implies more rule.
And then over the centuries, sort of more recent centuries, you've had more of these ocracies coined, within the English language by borrowing Latin and Greek terms. You've got a kakistocracy, for example, which is ruled by the worst in society from, kakistos.
That was the word of the year last year, according to a number of sources. There are a few other cool ocracies and archies that you may not have heard of, like thalassocracy, which is rule of the seas, which was applied to ancient maritime powers.
I did not hear thalassocracy there.
What did you hear?
I heard phallosocracy.
I mean, that's probably one too, but that describes most of the world's governments. So.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Androcracy.
Right. And then the opposite of that would be gynocracy, or in some cases, pornocracy. The 10th century senatrix Theodora and her daughter Marozia exercised immense influence upon the Roman government and the papacy for almost 500 years through both their own power and their descendants. Theodora was described by historians and contemporaries as a shameless harlot who exercised power on the Roman citizenry like a man. Between the two of them, they had mistresses and sons who became popes, it was said that their rule was a pornocracy because they were sleeping with people and producing popes.
Producing popes.
This is
when
like
a man and a woman love each other very much.
what would be the equivalent of this for anatiphorous from our like Sam Johnson episode? That was the word producing, that meant producing ducks. What is one who produces popes? We've got anatiphorous. Is it capivorous?
Is it anatocracy? It's like rule by duck.
I love this. I love this.
Oh, no. Also, you said senatrix, by the way, which is a new word to me that I'm going to add to my lovely list of Ix words.
They have been called senatresses before as well, kind of depending on which ending you want. But the trix ending is properly like Latin. So
yeah, it makes sense. If you're going to end the male version with or, then you want to end the female version with Ix, rix.
A few more that you may or may not know is a gerontocracy is a rule by an elder or rule by the old. Or let's say a kleptocracy is a rule by thieves or stolen rule. Stratocracy is rule by an army or by the military. A hierocracy was ruled by like the Greek hieros or heroes, sacred priestly rule. A pantarchy is universal rule, is what that comes from. It's supposed to have pan on the front, but I don't know why the T is in there.
Is it just to make it scan
Panarchy, better? I guess it doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but it sounds much more like it's related to pants, so I don't know. There's also pantisocracy, which has an additional element in there, meaning like rule of equals, so rule by all equals. That was a Coleridge and Southey coinage of like for a utopian society.
You've swept up most of them there, I reckon. There's one that you didn't mention, which is noocracy.
Oh, I was going to mention that one. Good.
Yeah, it's a nice one. It's I suppose the delegation of power to smart people, to wise people.
And ergotocracy is a worker. A mobocracy is mob rule.
That word goes back a few hundred years. I thought that was like a new coining, but it's not.
1700s. It sounds weird because mob sounds like a word that shouldn't be attached to crassy there.
Well, there's an alternative of it that sounds a little bit more technical, which is an ochlocracy. OCHLOCRACY, but that means ruled by the mob, by the masses.
There's also an adhocracy, which is a modern coinage from ad hoc, of course.
And bureaucracy obviously was not one of the original Greek ones.
Ruled by desks.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, ruled by fancy French desks. No, or you got bureau could be like a wardrobe as well. Got it.
Right.
No, that's a new one.
But that is the notion. It's like rule from an office, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Technocracy.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, technocracy. That is it.
All hail our rulers, the desks.
The desks.
We have a couple of words that come along with like ship. This is the Germanic ending that we would add to a form of rule or a form of government, like a dictatorship. For example, in Old English, we had a Königship, which was kingship, or a Knechtship, which is a knighthood, and then friendship, which is friendhood. Same deal.
And we've talked about Feonschipper as well, which is a old German word for a fiendship, an enemy.
It's more about a condition of being rather than implying exact rule. But if it's attached to a ruler, then or a system of government, then it can become a word for a government.
Ta-da! Jess, you rule.
Nah. No, you. Does that crown this episode? Does it bring it to a head?
Okay, very good. Yeah, I think it does. I've enjoyed this one. It's been weirdly silly, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why. It shouldn't have been. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have watched, you rule. If you've listened, you also rule. This has been another Words Unravelled.
See you next time.